Computer is working again.
Computer is working again.
Okay, I give my say.
You finished one?
I feel like everybody's touched on my concerns. You know, my response to part A would be all of the above are my concerns. But something Daryl and I were talking about at the break is how many people do we all know, not just young families, but everybody, any uptick in values that makes people go, yeah, I love the high country, but Eagle and Gypsum are close. And how do you stop that, especially with all the building of affordable housing or more affordable housing maybe in Eagle?
There's a lot of houses out there.
Yeah, those 500 units. Does anybody?
What they're building at Home Depot?
No, but nothing's gonna be a house anymore then, that's a problem too. Nobody's staying here is, where's the house for less than $1 million? Nowhere.
I don't even think Gypsum has a few there.
Yeah, I think they're creeping up too, but most of the units that are coming online are rental.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively.
Exclusive.
That's what it is, weren't they?
What's that?
Project in Edwards, Long Miller Ranch, is that Miller Ranch? In
Miller
Edwards?
Ranch, yeah.
That was the last big,
For sale.
fast for the value.
Yeah, homes for actual homes.
Yeah.
Other than Village Homes and Eagle, which came after Miller Ranch.
Yeah, like a decade later, probably.
We need like 2 or 3 more Miller Ranches.
Daryl would like to respond first before.
I have more of an observation than a solution or, back in the 70s, early 70s, let's put it that way. A lot of young families were moving in, were growing up here, starting up, going, up to about, I would say 76, 78. And there was a lot of, well, we had Red Sandstone Middle School. I mean, we had way too many kids. And there was a lot of them in Minturn. Then in about the 90s, things started changing. People started leaving. People got older, got tired, like I said, got tired of shoveling snow. And so the population started going downhill. But I've noticed in the 20s, especially in the, since 2020, there's a lot more strollers going on around here, a lot more young kids, a lot more young families. Those are the things that I don't know how they're affording it, but I am very encouraged to see so many young families coming into Minturn. And I'd like us to keep focusing with how we can help them. My family, they're gone. Like it was said earlier, my boys can't afford it. My grandkids probably couldn't afford it. But they're at the point where they've already developed their level of income and stuff like that. So that generation's gone. But the one that's in the strollers and the ones that are pushing those strollers, I think we should really focus with those guys. But just an observation.
Well, and you're right, because when I moved here in 83, there were a lot of children.
Mhm.
And then there was a period where that seemed to subside, and now it's back again.
My concern with that is, I think lots of the people paying one vote too, are getting $300,000 from the grandparents who've done so well in the stock market. I think it's not, it's
a lot of help from family.
Yeah.
And I think that hopefully later in the presentation, we'll see that we're not going to have like one silver bullet solution that's going to do all of these things, but we can piecemeal together different programs and policies that hopefully help the people who have moved here with young families in the 2020s and have the kids in strollers, and help the people who currently live here and are experiencing like skyrocketing tax prices. And obviously I am an intern. I am not promising anything, but I do have a lot of hope that we can like combine our brain power and find solutions that work for everyone. I'm getting a lot of skeptical looks.
I love it. This plan, I mean, Eagle County has throughout the whole county, has developed a high level of people that are senior citizens now. It's, I don't know what the number is, but it's hard, and they should be thinking about that through this. Not just thinking about making more living quarters, but what happens to those people, because there are still many of them who do not want to. And there should be something said for them staying.
I agree, and there is something in our, I think it was the 2023 community plan, not the housing action plan. But one of the objectives was to make housing affordable for people of all income levels, all ages, all stages of life, that sort of thing. So it's in there. We just need to find the tools to get it done.
And to your point, if I'm hearing you correctly, I think there are people thinking about that who are involved in this discussion about a regional housing authority, what tools can be used. They're looking at other communities, not just in Colorado, but across the United States, for things like tax waivers for low income or, fixed income folks. There's a lot of fixed income people from Vail to Eagle and Gypsum, right? That are faced with the same problems you're talking about. In 20 years, I might be one of them. I feel like that already, right? Like you said, it doesn't, it's not discriminating against neighborhoods. We're all kind of dealing with the same thing with increased taxes, increased water bills, increased gas bills. Oh, the guy next door to me just built a duplex and he's selling it for $1,000 a square foot. Guess what my taxes are gonna be, And we're projecting, like, can we afford to stay in this valley and retire here like we want to? My son, the same thing. So that is a cool idea of thinking about generational. How do you tie that back to a buy down program? If we had, if that's one of our tools that we say, okay, we'll opt into this program and we'll commit to whatever the tax makeup is. I don't want to go there and I don't mean to hijack your presentation, but the thing that we want among other tools in Minturn is to generate money to buy down whatever, right? So it's a purchase price buy down to help someone get into a unit. Maybe there's a preference system where they can prove that their family lived here, whatever. I've never heard of that, but that's a cool idea.
Or if it's like grandma wants to convert to a deed, but that deed has better incentives if that deed is taken over by granddaughter. So it is generational. Something like that to me is something that, especially in Minturn, in order to keep those, they're the families that come and sit and talk to us. That
exists.
That is, how do we get something that says, hey, we love you as much as you love us, and here's a program for you. You convert your property to a deed restriction, you hand it down to your generation, it gets this benefit, these more additional benefits because you're doing a generational deed restriction.
Right.
That is exactly the kind of thing I don't want to speed through the rest of the presentation, but get through the next couple of slides so that we can start writing down all of these ideas and collecting them and maybe even fleshing them out a little bit so that we have a solid frame for how we want to do these things. Because that's really cool. I haven't heard that combination of things before. Cool.
That's only because I have a kid. Jeff has a kid. I've seen your kids. They are going to be living in California.
They're gonna be living down by the river.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And because you too would think about that. 100%.
I do.
You would 100%.
Try not to put.
I'm trying to stay in my house till I'm dead with my
Stop.
taxes.
I am too, but I'm okay. So keep going. Keep going.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about what we've done so far because we have taken steps towards where we want to go. Starting with the 2019 Housing Action Plan, which led to the adoption of the 2020 Inclusionary Housing Ordinance. So this requires that all new residential or mixed-use developments with 5 or more units to put a deed restriction on at least 20% of the units. And this was a huge accomplishment and a priority tool identified in the 2019 Housing Action Plan. So also important to note that in order to implement this program, we signed an IGA with Eagle County to help with the administrative process behind it. So this is relevant because it kind of points to a pre-existing shortage of staffing capacity to undertake even more housing initiatives. Moving on, throughout COVID, we lost some momentum, but we picked back up with the 2023 community plan, and there was a chapter specifically in there on affordable housing. And this is included as an attachment, just the objectives from this chapter at the end. And you might have noticed that for many of these objectives, we need either more funds or more staffing capacity to develop the new programs or make the recommended policy updates. Next up, in 2023, we see that Minturn North voluntarily provided 6 resident occupied units, resident occupied deed restricted units, even though the housing guidelines hadn't been formally adopted at this point. So shout out to them. What? At the time of application, sorry. And then next up in 2023, we see that this town signed on to Prop 123, which obligates the town to have 33 affordable units created in the town by 2026 in order to be eligible for state funding from this program. And we are on our way with that. So
By what year?
by 2026.
It was right now.
So end of this year, but we are on our way. So with Belden Place, they have 20 resident occupied units, and they voluntarily provided 14 of those. They were only required to provide 6 resident occupied and then 4 price capped units. And they did the minimum of price capped units, which was 4. But the town also just started renovations on an apartment that will meet Prop 123 guidelines. So between that and Belden, we have 25 of our 33 units. So we just need 8 more this year.
I know a guy.
You know a guy, yes.
We know a guy. Sorry, what was your question, Melissa?
Here's the place with the other 19 units.
Oh, Belden Place.
Okay.
Oh, wait. So
Belden Place has 4?
Belden Place has 20 resident occupied and 4 price capped units. So that's 24. The one upstairs is 25, and then we need 8 more.
I mean, what happens if you don't get to hit the 8?
No, then we just don't get eligible for the next round of funding through Prop 123.
How much money is it?
It varies.
It varies.
What, how much?
I think that's actually,
Does the school district's development, does that include? Because there's, how many of those are HUDs?
4, they're only doing 4 in the first phase.
they're doing the Habitat for Humanity, which would be what, 33?
32, but that,
Does that include, they're in town?
Not yet. Because they're not even through their final approvals and they have no building permits,
But
but
if the final approval goes through this year, would that count?
well, I don't think it would. So we'd then probably, if we can meet our obligation this year, and then I think we'd probably roll into the next round of funding. Do you have any thoughts on that? I think that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, I think you got it.
And we would recommit for another batch of commitments.
who committed the 33?
That was based on their guidelines, based on the housing needs analysis and how many units we currently have and how many, I don't think they.
It was before the housing needs analysis, and it was, I think, not a wild ass guess, but it was our best guess as to how many permits we had issued previously and how many we anticipated coming with Minturn North and Belden and places like that.
Yeah, they had a whole formula on Bola's website when we were going through signing up that I had to input all this stuff in, and then they generated how much we had to commit to. So we were instructed to commit to 33 units.
I think on that Proposition 123, I could be wrong, which is possible, but maybe not. I think a few weeks ago in the Vale Daily or on the Denver News, I think I saw them diverting people being upset, affordable housing people, they were building affordable housing stuff, being upset because they were gonna divert the funds that everybody voted for 123, I believe, to pay, not for, to take it from what it was designed for and cover some of our budget shortfall in the state.
I think I saw something about that too.
Which I was like, see, and everybody voted for housing, and then they're taking the money.
There's been issues with
Sorry.
getting the money to the communities that have committed. I think it's gone to very few projects. It's been part of the hangups of that program. Just administratively rolling it out, like, here's the program and we need you to do this. Trust us, we'll figure it out. And they were building building the airplane as it was taking off kind of thing. That's some of the reports that I've gotten back.
So any funding from Prop 123, it's something we signed on to 3 years ago because the state really pushed it.
It's a good thing anyway.
And, some things out of it great, but
It was diverted tax money, right?
It was surplus tax money and then
We're paying the every
the
year.
surplus went into this fund, if I am correct.
It's always easy to take the money
Yeah,
and put it somewhere, but then like to
Right.
give it out to the right people, that's the hard part.
I'm not paying it. I just want to go where I'm paying it. So,
You're talking about how many they're committing to doing. They didn't do deed restrictions, did they?
yes, they did.
They-
Resident occupied deed restrictions and price capped. deed
Wasn't
restrictions.
there something about having so many units for long term? Like the people who bought them had to be living in the town.
That's resident occupied.
Okay. But then something came up with if those units didn't sell that way after a certain period of time, they would open up to anyone who could.
I think that's still the case. I
Is
think
that
that's how
still
the
the case?
deed
So how does
restriction.
that relate to this 33 in here?
I don't-
Gonna adjust the numbers downward. Not really, because it could still be Eagle County occupied
And Prop 123 probably
and
lets you.
still qualify for also Prop 123, so it may not
Yeah.
matter.
I don't know the answer to that. But when they do sell to somebody who's not qualifying according to that deed restriction, then there is a transfer fee. And then that transfer fee comes back to put towards other housing programs.
You talking about the place?
Yes.
I guess my recollection is that they, for a lack of a better way of putting it, the short window that they had on the market to sell those has passed. That's my guess. So they've been offered, it passed, if whatever sold, sold. And now that they didn't sell, I don't necessarily think that whatever was voluntarily not required, they don't have to adhere to, I don't think.
No, but I'm saying.
There was I remember being pretty sure.
So they, out of those 14 units,
Months
they're
being on
saying
market.
could be locally occupied. By now, it could be only 6 of those units are.
Maybe.
Correct.
That's where I'm going. with
And they're
that.
all on for sale from our, like, full
I
market
have no
price.
idea, I don't pay attention to it. I don't know.
We have a couple more slides.
Okay, cool, let's go. Okay, so why hasn't more housing been built? We need water, we need funds, we need staffing capacity, and then also some of it is due to timing. So if we take a look at the 2019 Housing Action Plan goals and the 2023 Community Plan objectives, becomes pretty clear pretty quickly that we need these things in order to accomplish what we've set out to do. Next. I love this slide because it shows the summary of current resources available, what other jurisdictions are doing, and then I've highlighted what Minturn is doing. So as you can see, Minturn has room to do more. I believe you all have this in your packets, but does anyone have any questions about what these different resources do or what they are? Yes, Amanda.
So wouldn't it be fair to say that rental assistance should go across all of them? So because it's Eagle County, it satisfies for all of the municipalities, Vale, Minturn, Avon, Eagle, Gypsum. So like both, and that's for both ADU incentives and rental assistance. Because Minturn can apply, Minturn residents can apply for rental assistance. We can apply for ADU incentives, so it seems like this graph is a little skewed when you put Eagle County, or are those just for? I'm just trying to understand, like, is Eagle County just non-annexed, or like, is it like an Eagleville only? Like, what's in Edwards only? Like, that's what Eagle County stands for?
I'm gonna let Scott take this one.
Thanks. I think. I think that's a great observation. I think this table came from the housing needs analysis. So they were taking their data from Eagle County and all the towns. They chose how to present it, but I see your point that the rental assistance, it's an Eagle County program, but it does stretch across other jurisdictions. So perhaps the table isn't great.
Yeah.
But it's not a program that we necessarily administer, or I don't know if we take full advantage of it. I have no idea.
But Vail doesn't administer it either.
True. That's why it's, the check mark is under Eagle County.
Yeah, but it just, I'm just saying like we get, like, are you saying like we should, like, we would never be able to get the check bar, the check box, bleh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We'd never get an X in that box.
Well, maybe we can in the future, and I think it's a fair point to bring up to the folks that did the study and produced the final report to say, this is a bit of a misnomer. Because it actually is a benefit that stretches across all of those community, but yeah.
And then also, I think it's relevant to point out that some of these things could be more specific to Minturn. So if we had a rental assistance program, then, and we were running it and maintaining it ourselves, then it could be applied for certain cases, like for somebody who works and lives in town, for example, instead of just a general catch-all rental assistance. I don't know what the rules are about doing preferential things with something like that, if it falls into discrimination or anything like that, but
Money through the community fund too, because I know they've helped seniors at various points, you know, what would pass through a nonprofit, let us do.
And I don't understand also the down payment assistance, because that is also like, it's both a county and
But we don't pay into any of it.
we don't pay into it. But but people that live in Minturns can still apply for the down payment assistance. They just don't get preferential treatment because they're purchasing in Minturn. So it's like a lottery point system.
And I think this is where I like, now that I think more, I think this is where kind of the confusion is. Just because Minturn residents can take advantage of it doesn't mean that the Minturn government is participating in
Got
it.
it, thank you.
This is not, like, these things are not something that the Minturn government has signed on to do, has agreed with the county or these other jurisdictions to partner with. This is just something that the county is offering countywide to do, or Vail is offering to do.
Educating
or
it
the other
as
cities.
Yeah.
resident.
Right, so, you know, it's great that our Minturn residents can already take advantage of these things, but if we want to show that we are also trying to help our residents, maybe the government signs on to help.
Got it, yeah, that's how that.
And I want to come back to that as soon as we're done with this slide, because the discussion about what do we want, what do you think the town needs and wants or can use as a tool? If this authority gets created and if there's a theoretical pot of money, where would we want to put that money? These are the tools that we need to, if we're not getting a check mark or we need to do something to partner with somebody or make it more formal. That's, I think, where we're headed with this discussion.
Can I ask a question just in regards to the county stuff? So, and we're gonna talk about it, obviously, the county, what the county gives assistance, and I know that there's, you know, people, first time home buyers and stuff like that. Work, even though Minturn isn't currently controlling that, the county doesn't discriminate against Minturn, right? That's like for anybody in the county, regardless of, and there's not special for other people. And Minturn's like the black sheep, it's across the board, right?
But so like for the down payment assistance program, and correct me if I'm wrong. So if you're applying for a down payment assistance program and you're trying to purchase a home in Vail.
It looks like we're getting stuck on that one.
Well, I'm just using that example, but if you're purchasing a home in Vail.
Mhm.
And you go into you're gonna try to purchase a home in Vail. And you work in Vail,
Correct.
then you have more like lottery points to purchase that home and have access to
Yeah,
that.
I remember. how they said that.
Yeah, have access to that program if that home is being purchased in Vail. So you have more ability to access that program if you're working, do you know what I mean? Like,
And is that because?
and that's where I think we have opportunity in Minturn is like, okay, like we want our locals to have down payment assistance. in Minturn proper because they work in Minturn proper.
But then I think currently in Vale, they'll probably ponies up and they would have to pony up to get, right?
Yeah, and bless you. And the ponying up, I think that like I met with Patty, who works for the town of Avon, and she's been really like taking charge with the whole regional housing authority. And something she said that really stuck with me is that it is known and acknowledged that Minturn is going to be a smaller contributor in terms of ponying up for these certain programs. And it's not about how much money we put towards these programs. It's about kind of showing up and saying, hey, we're in it to do it. And so with whatever funds that we do end up having, then it doesn't necessarily need to be a ton. She gave the example of gypsum. They contributed, I think, like $10,000 to, I think it was the down payment assistance program. And then they ended up doing like 10 times, taking out of that fund like 10 times as much as they put in. And nobody batted an eye because that's where the need was and that's how it worked out. So we have access to a lot by contributing what we can. Is basically.
Lotus, so we should be able to get in for like 500. Great, that was a great explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So, and back to gypsum, so is that because the volume of a build, like where you can construct these homes, like were they selective on what program they were investing in based on the housing inventory that they had available, and did like an analysis saying, okay, well, we have this many houses that are going to be new, so then the down payment assistance program makes more sense, or we have this many houses that are going to be rental, so the rental assistance makes more sense. Was that analysis done for some of these municipalities?
I am not familiar with what the municipalities did leading up to their participation in any of these programs. But I do think that it could possibly be useful to do a meeting with people from the different municipalities and see how they have
Like
decided to participate.
Or do you see what, like,
Yeah,
because we just don't have that many ADU incentives, like.
I think it also has to do with, so for the down payment assistance program, they can only help with the down payment up to a certain number. It's like, there's different programs out there, but the one that's coming to mind is like, they will do maximum $150,000 for the down payment. And so the houses in gypsum were probably more eligible in that sense than houses in Vale or Avon. But I don't know what's up with their rentals.
Yeah, it's like you don't know how the towns, municipalities selected what programs to participate in. You don't know what they did in the background
No,
to
but
make that determination.
we can talk about it though with them. Do we have any other questions about the summary of current resources?
Can you just describe a little bit more in detail the inclusionary housing policies?
So the inclusionary housing policy is mostly so that new buildings or new developments coming online, it's mandatory that some of that housing stock is going to be deed restricted. So for us, our policy gets triggered after 5 units. And so after somebody builds 5 units, 20% of those units must be deed restricted. For resident occupied. And then other
10% needs to be deed restricted price capped.
And is that consistent across all the municipalities, or does each municipality set their own? They just have to have an inclusionary housing policy.
For years, Eagles was, if you did over a certain number of units, I think it was 10, you had to have 10% of your units be deed restricted. Didn't have to be price capped, I don't believe.
Okay.
And they've recently, I think, revisited that after the town of Eagle did a housing study a few years ago. So every jurisdiction does it a little differently.
We all have different AMI levels that you have to deed restrict price cap to. So, yeah.
And with RHA, are they promoting any sort of consistency across that, or are they going to continue allowing that each municipality directs their own goals?
So
Sorry.
from my understanding, it is a great question. There are talks of making it more consistent so that it's more easy to understand and you can move from place to place within the valley. But that's sort of why we're here talking about it today, because if that's something that we definitely don't want, then we can give that feedback.
I took part in the housing needs analysis for 2 years and then the report development. And now with the discussions with the town of Avon and Eagle County, what does this look like? What do you want it to look like? I think you're right. I also think there's a high degree of sensitivity to each municipality and not coming in saying, we're gonna redo your inclusionary housing thing because this is the way we want it. They're really looking to at every town to say, no, we want to keep ours the way it is, but here's the other tools that we want to take.
Yeah, it seems like practically speaking, if an authority is created, it seems like they can make their own rules and they can decide, or they can lead, or they can make the guardrails where they want. And then if towns that either are having a hard time meeting those want to change their own, they can decide to change their own, right?
There's that, and I think there's truth to the fact that it may not be the actual inclusionary housing regulations or other things that each town is going to either keep or revise or whatever, but it's seeking consistency in the language of deed restrictions, because right now you've got different deed restriction language going on in all sorts of different places. That's one way to kind of streamline to make it easier and less expensive as taxpayers for the regional housing authority to help all the different towns administer deed restrictions, as an example, right? I think that's where they're looking for some consistency specifically.
I mean, it's just gonna be a giant subsidy pot that everyone's trying to get a piece of.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and some of the background that's driving some of my questions is I know that there was a shift in like the down payment assistance program where Vail used to administrate their own, and now that they've shifted and Eagle County administers for that municipality. And so I'm just asking like the question, so like if Minturn goes into the RHA and says, oh, we want to be part of this program, is it something where we do have the option to administrate ourselves, or are we, because we are Minturn, we can't afford to administrate ourselves, so we have to lump onto this other program, but then by lumping on, we then have to succumb to all of the rules that are at the county level.
There's probably going to be some of that, but it's we're not there yet.
Okay.
so for the way.
We don't.
I know we're so perfect.
And I think it's a common concern that I think a lot of municipalities are having was what's this balance of control?
Yeah.
Is that accurate in your research?
Yeah, and I think that is kind of why we decided to go with the hybrid pass-through model also, because at the end of the day, we're getting back 90% of the funds from what we're collecting to do with what we wish. So 10% of it stays with the regional housing authority, and then we get to pick and choose which programs we want to participate in. And if we see one, we're like, oh, we really like what this does, but we don't like their rules, then we could maybe look to a different program to partner with, or we could try and start one ourselves. And then still use the regional housing authority to help with admin and compliance, and with the understanding that it is a Minturn specific program.
And then we would have and just to thread that needle, then we would have like a contractual agreement with that other, like the Eagle County program to administer it on our behalf, but to our rules.
We already do.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be necessarily Eagle County, it would be the regional housing authority.
Yeah, regional housing, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Got it, thanks, that was all my questions.
I love the questions, keep them coming. Next up, you guys haven't seen this slide yet. So now it's time to talk and move around. And we are going to talk about the tools in our regional housing authority toolbox. So we have up there partnerships, that's funding mechanisms, staffing capacity, and policy. How can we combine all of these different facets to create deliverable programs and services for prospective homeowners or people who are renting in Minturn. So I have printed out a little toolkit with just some buzzwords on it so that you all can see sort of what I'm talking about when I say that. And then if you go to the next slide, Madison, we're gonna look back on the data that we reviewed earlier. And let's say that we're given $300,000. Consider how we could utilize different funding mechanisms, so like down payment assistance or buy downs. Increased staffing capacity, so admin compliance monitoring from a regional housing authority, partnerships, so potentially participating with Avon Good Deeds, to implement programs and or policies to preserve pre-1970 housing units that reflect Minturn's historic charm, increase or at least sustain year-round occupancy, make Minturn more affordable for middle-income earners, and enable home ownership and rental units for residents making less than 300% AMI. And caveat on D is that I said that based on that slide saying that you need to make nearly 300% AMI in order to afford a home. We can think across the whole housing spectrum. So anything from the low end, 30%, to whatever you all think is fair. And
Is our current AMI 120?
yes,
40, I thought.
120.
120.
120. Yeah. So
While Jessica's doing that, there's a lot of terms that have been used tonight. Does anybody have questions on any of this stuff?
Can you just redo the AMI? Cause screw my
so
calculator.
area median income is
Oh, I did that.
oh,
I see.
how it's calculated.
No, I think I know.
Okay.
Now I got it.
What's our current rate, Minton?
120, that's what I was trying to figure out. I thought it was.
I thought it was 160.
I thought we had this
Started at 200 and we knocked it down to 120.
I remember.
That's just applicable
It's-
to
it's-
the 10% of any new development that gets built. 10% of the units have to be deed restricted, price capped at a max of 120. So we're forcing a developer to offer homes at that price point or below.
Got it.
So
Ours is pretty aggressive at 120.
Not so much.
The state would like us to hit more between 80 and 100.
We should have a range.
So my question,
That's something we need to think about.
you have to answer this question.
Lynn, I have a question for Scott.
I'll get mine over with.
Both of them might be able to answer.
Now. We recently had, conversations with price points being set where, two teachers, whatever they made, they couldn't qualify. So what,
Specifically for Habitat housing, which already automatically has a lower AMI.
okay, so,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, so I guess the question is. Okay.
Two teachers.
Because that's
Two
Habitat.
teachers normally
If
fall
that's-
within one.
That's how, if that was Minturn.
If it was Minturn, they
They
would
would
qualify.
qualify.
Yes, but
That-
Habitat starts at 80%.
Yes, that. Now I remember. It was a lot to take.
It was a lot to take in.
Daryl, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Or maybe it's a example how we could do it possibly. What if the homeowner wanted to build a mother-in-law, I like to call them father-in-law, home, very small, tiny home-like idea on the same property. But be able to maybe not have lot coverage no more than 60% of the two buildings.
Right.
We could probably do that by how we are structured now, just by variances.
That's
But-
actually something that's within our housing policy. If you are willing to deed restrict your property, you have the ability to request to town council the flexibility in those types of situations. So that already exists in our code.
Did we
Like
get
they-
restricted like a?
They would need to deed restrict, I think, the whole property, because I don't know how you deed restrict a part of a property.
It's attached to the land itself, not to the house.
So like they could, the retired couple could move into the small house, still own the lot and the big house. And someone, school teachers or whoever, whatever, a young family could move into the big house because they need 3 bedrooms.
As long as it meets whatever requirements within that deed restriction.
When we adopted the housing guidelines in 2020, that was one of the incentives that I wouldn't say rose to the top, was one of the ones that was less controversial. You know, we couldn't at that time, and I don't think we will going forward, get our heads wrapped around waivers on water tap fees or other waivers, but that flexibility, we tried really hard to get that in there. No one's really taken advantage of that. But it exists. And then I think that's why you hear Matt and Madison and I in our discussions about zoning and lot coverage in our new zone districts and thinking about incentivizing accessory dwelling units and incentivizing people to either build them or, you know, if they have something, deed restrict the property and do exactly what you're saying.
But
Allowing more lot coverage to incentivize people to do that.
So, but you're saying that would require a second tap or something like that. Is that correct? Or do they? No.
Yes, any additional unit will require additional water.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So it wouldn't be able to go on now because of the moratorium, but
If what they were proposing was within the moratorium, which is existing historic SFEs +1, then they could.
oh,
Is an ADU a half tap or full half tap?
Yeah.
that half the tap.
And also, this part of the presentation, this is more discussion oriented. So if y'all aren't feeling, come up with some programs, policies, tools to apply to these things. Madison, if you don't mind going to the next slide really quickly.
Yes.
Ultimately, we're here today to bring about some considerations for moving forward. So I think that we've answered a lot of questions throughout this presentation, which is awesome. But if we were to opt into the Regional Housing Authority, what should be the town's priorities? So do we want to focus on getting more deed restrictions? Do we want to prioritize rehabbing old homes? Do we want them to be a resource for staying up to date on the latest best practices? And then also, what do we not want to happen? So Regional Housing Authority could also potentially buy and hold land for future development. So we could say that we do not want to overdevelop sensitive wildlife habitats, or we don't want high density, high rise commercial developments. So things like that, just sort of like the general direction that we want this to move in. What feedback do you have that we can bring to those discussions? And it is getting late and I don't want to take up too much of y'all's time. So what?
You want those on these?
And then also, if we're not feeling writing on the sticky notes, then everyone can speak, or you can keep writing on the sticky notes and I can take notes for what we talk about out loud.
You can email us. You can stop into town hall and talk to us. You can call us if you have ideas at 2 o'clock in the morning tonight and you're like, I got it.
So I will not be answering the phone at 2 p.m. I will call you back during business hours.
I'm here
Sadly, I
Tuesdays
might.
and Thursdays and always
So
more
what
than
you're
happy to talk
saying-
about it. So.
So wait, I am not clear on the direction how we're facing.
Now you,
So
what is this?
That's just information.
this is
Just
just,
to think about.
That's just.
this is things to think about, certain words that we've mentioned, certain ideas. And then with the sticky notes, if you have ideas that pertain to the specific data trends that we were talking about, you can put them in a quadrant that corresponds
With that slide.
And it's just a way to get some ideas out there for what we could do to address.
But we don't have a copy of that to take with us.
I can print it out for you and I will get it to you.
There's another one you did in there tonight. It's not there.
This one?
No, that's one that was.
This one?
before
There's only 2 slides with questions on them,
that.
Michael.
Okay, perfect. I can't write on a Post-it, so I can answer mine right now, real
Okay.
quick. Real quick. A lot of my questions have been answered.
Just put it on the table there.
My questions have been answered. If we're to opt into the RHA, I think that we should fight for our fair share of anything that's getting paid out of Eagle County because of the fact that we pay Eagle County taxes. But I think that we should opt to control our part as best as possible without them giving us full say. And And what I not wanna have happen, I don't wanna pay any additional tax.
You can't have both.
What?
No free lunch, you've heard that.
So we can't get, we already pay tax to Eagle County.
This would be additional tax, and we didn't want to get into the mechanics because we don't exactly know the mechanics, but when the council was presented with the concept of an RHA a couple months ago and the scenarios under which an RHA could function and how it would be funded, they're making assumptions that there would be an additional sales tax that would be countywide, potentially a use tax, what else? Property tax. So they're trying to kind of spread that burden out amongst sales tax, which would not just be you, it would be anyone who visits, and a 0.5% sales tax or something. They had a model of like, if we do this, here's one potential model of funding. Just to kind of get people thinking about this is how much money it could generate in Vail, in Minturn, in wherever, based on our historic sales tax generation, property tax, whatever it is. And so it's not
I meant specifically property tax.
right.
Sales tax, if everybody's not just
Mhm.
like Minturn sales tax, but like county sales tax, if everybody's contributing, pitching in towards the pot.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I don't want to pay more.
And this is obviously something that would go to the voters. And it would probably be in
That'd be like Proposition 123 where we're not getting our money.
So something else that came up.
That's all. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Something else that came up in conversations with Patty that's pretty unique about this regional housing authority opportunity right now is that, so we had the questions earlier about if something applies in Eagle County, doesn't it apply also in Minturn? So my brain immediately went to sometimes it's limited by jurisdiction. So like, I'm not explaining this well, but for this opportunity, if Eagle County opts in, then they have access to like the Vail, Beaver Creek, the resort areas that aren't mentioned in this slideshow to put into this pot of money. So Minturn would be contributing, but then also whatever increase in taxes they incur, it's also going to be incurred in the areas with more short-term rentals, second homeowners, that sort of thing.
That would just be for Beaver Creek, Arrowhead, right? Majority of Vail zoning doesn't fall into that, Scott. So
Vail is its own jurisdiction.
Yeah.
You're right. It would, if you're talking about unincorporated Eagle County, you
Yeah.
got Beaver Creek, Arrowhead, all the
yeah.
sorts.
Okay.
So basically what you're saying, unless we come up with a way to collect the money, we don't get to join.
No,
No.
if the voters of this town vote not to opt into the RHA when it does go to a ballot measure in probably 2028, then we don't get any money. We just keep doing our own thing and hope that it works out for us. If we vote it down and then decide that we wanted to opt into it later, I think that's an option.
So I think the only way that the town of Minturn is going to, I think you have to come up with something that's a generational program. And that's just being very honest. And I think that you're gonna have that same question in other municipalities that they probably haven't thought through.
So
Something that plays into this is there's no knowledge of what state planning is among senior citizens in this town at all.
There's only 2 lawyers, there doesn't say.
Again, if they're 5 miles away, they're at 30. And with some, they're 75. People don't want to pay lawyers
Yeah.
to think about death because people don't want to think about death.
You're totally right.
And that's why Minturn's so believed. And that's a really big deal because there are lots of people, forgive me, about to die in this town who who want to leave their property to their children, but they're so scared of death, they don't know what's going on. It would behoove Minturn, and shit, it doesn't have to be me, I don't care who it is. But there's something called a beneficiary deed, which is you record that before you die. It passes your property into a trust at its current basis. Instead of downloading some bullshit quickly and feed to your kid. No, but listen, you inherit at this high value.
Yeah.
And that avoids having to sell.
No, but I'm saying, but that's taking into account that the property is primarily paid for, where
I think most are.
but they could not be in some of these generations, and that's where I'm looking at the generational, where if the property isn't paid for and would have to be reclaimed, you would have Generation D where they could buy it and before it hits, if they don't have it. Do you?
I'm not sure that's a thing.
Okay.
It sounds like a-
No, it's not a
You know
thing.
what I mean?
That's not-
It's
not-
not. Yes.
you can't- you can't deny it.
This is a really dark,
You know?
I'm not trying to paint something.
You know what?
But this sounds like a huge dark opportunity where, let's just say in the next 10 years, there's a bunch of properties that are in that limbo that you're talking about. And
Okay,
kind of like people quit claiming, or, you know, the middle of the river.
Right.
Maybe there was a way for us to scoop all those properties up in
Yes.
town and put them in a land bank.
But a regional.
And then we can
housing
distribute them
authority
back
can
to
do
our
that.
citizens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe-
It is when some people think, oh no, I'm just gonna quick leave it to my kids. You are screwing them
You were.
because they are inheriting
If-
it at the value that you acquired it at. And in a place like Minturn, you wanna have to sell quickly.
I think there's an opportunity here.
You know, yeah, you too.
So
Sounds good.
I am someone who learned about this with my parents and myself. My father, when we went at some point when he was still alive to look for his will, we found two pieces of paper. There were two pages, 2 lines long. I will to my wife, I will to my husband. I went, no. You've got multiple properties. You can't do this because they inherited family properties. So I got them to do a trust, like Melissa said. When they died, those trusts, at that time, the only people left were my sister and I. They came to us at the current value. And we only had to pay taxes from where that value was to when we sold it, whatever that increase was, which in Chicago, in an older neighborhood, wasn't maximum. So we did well. It also taught me that's what I needed to do. Even though I just have me, but I still have family members that I want to make sure. My niece would love to live out here, I know that. So I did what she said, rather than just have a will, because of what it does to that level of what you have to pay capital gains on. It's an amazing situation.
So just so that we have a clear understanding of all the different ideas that are coming through, let's maybe turn our attention to the sheet that I just passed out with toolkits. And then also it's up on the slides, but we'll go through the partnerships, policies, things we can do with staffing capacity, funding mechanisms and programs. And then in each category, maybe we can brainstorm some things that we would be interested in doing. I've already marked down education potentially as one of them so that people know about these beneficiary trusts that we were just talking about, and estate planning. I think that education was mentioned as a possible resource with the RHA. So we have that, but let's jump back up to partnerships.
just envision, just like, I think you started the presentation this way, like try to separate how this happens to, and just envision that we're getting $300,000 a year in money to use as the town of Minturn sees fit. Which of these, and it could be, you know, write it down or straw poll, do we think partnerships are a good idea kind of thing? And then, does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
And do you want us to say which partnerships with the bullet points, or just say partner?
I kind of feel like we should,
Try to be as specific as possible.
I
If you
think,
need more information on some of those, then I think we can probably come back, but I think it's just trying to get a handle on, you know, perhaps which ideas of these slides rise to the top. Is that fair?
yeah. Maybe we could have people write down what they're most interested in or circle what they're interested in.
Does everyone know what the Town of Avon Good Deeds program is?
No,
Okay. Have you heard of the Town of Vales?
they have a copy of this.
Okay.
Mhm.
Town of Vale started this. George Ruther, who was the housing director several years ago, came up with this idea. Maybe it wasn't his, but he surely made it sound like it was his idea.
Which we had that on recording.
I think he went on a circuit of conferences touting the whole thing. It's the Town of Vale's program where they said, you know what, we're not solving this problem. We're not extracting enough pain out of developers to build us houses or units, and they're not the right kind of units. We need to do something else. So they said, we're Vale and we have a fairly large pot of money. Stop me if you think I'm off base here. But they said, we're just going to buy deed restrictions. So we're going to pay people up to a certain percentage of the assessed value of the house that they were going to buy. I think it was up to like $100,000 or $115,000. We'll pay you that money so you can buy a 1970 townhome with no parking and maybe put some improvements into it. In return, you give us a deed restriction that says it's going to be locals housing forever. I don't know if they have a buyout provision in that, but that's how it started. Avon and Eagle County have now adopted the same kind of program where they'll literally give people money to use as they see fit, either as down payment or whatever, in return for a deed restriction that takes that out of the kind of free market. Avon's is called Good Deeds, which I think is also the same as the county. They've now partnered to leverage their funding.
There's indeed. And then Avon has another one called Mikasa.
That's right. I think they merged though.
Oh.
I don't know. Anyways, that's what that means. It's a great example of a regional, what started as a local program that's now become more regional.
So we're supposed to take this sheet, think more about it, right? Respond,
You can either respond now or do a thought,
like circle things.
but like, I have nothing here that says take $300,000. It's not in this packet and it's not in here. That's what I'm saying. There's a couple things in the packet. Like where you put, there would be a different insert. The other one was RHA tools. We don't have that. I'd like to get those pages tonight so that I can put them in, or you can just print a whole new copy, but that's not, you can do the separate pages, no, not necessary. So that I also have this toolbox and I also have the brainstorming session one. So that I have those to work off of.
And I also think we were talking earlier about AMI, stuff like that in that regards, and and what, what developments would contribute currently and more in the future. And I don't really see that listed here as part of our thought process as possibilities.
So that one wasn't included because it already exists here.
Maybe we want more.
Okay,
That would be under the policy
See.
capacity type stuff. So policy guidance is one of the toolbox choices. And the bullet point underneath that is update the 2019 housing action plan, which would be a good place to start looking at our current requirements.
Update, what did you say?
Wait, I don't see that. Is that supposed to be all?
That's on the slide right there. This is different than that. This was just,
Some of those words you said, sir.
Blah, 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 blah.
I'll update the 2019.
Well, so one of the choices under the slide for policy guidance, I don't know if you can see that, but it's,
Okay, update.
the first one is update the 2019 housing action plan. And a sub bullet under that would be to take aim at the existing AMI requirements that we have. 20% of the development needs to be deed restricted RO, resident occupied, and 10% needs to be price capped. We could also look at our current AMI restriction of 120 and wind up with something that is more of a range. We want developers in the future to provide a range of housing prices at different AMIs. That could be a wish list item that we want to use that money towards updating our housing action plan, updating our existing regulations for housing. Just as an example of how we could use that money for that purpose. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Is that what you're referring to on page 8? Objective 4.6, where it talks about the 200,000, but then it goes to 120,000 requirements should be available for at least certain portions.
I think that's in the memo.
that's from the 2019 housing action plan.
So you're gonna get me a copy of that. Please.
So It should have been an attachment in your packet, just a summary of the 2019 Housing Action Plan with the goals on it and the priority housing tools that were developed during that plan. Sorry.
It is in there.
Oh.
Okay, so goals are on page 7. And then, community action plan starts on page 8.
So because some of these documents are older, I included them as they were, but that doesn't include any progress we've made on these things or steps that have been taken since then. This is just, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I gotta go.
I finally got a dinner.
Can I stick my stickies on your board there?
Yes, please do. The board is over there.
Yep.
Sorry, y'all, we kind of devolved at the end here. But
How much time do we have before we need to go to council, and is there a time frame?
council is supposed to be in a couple weeks, but we can push it back if we need to.
One of the things I was gonna say about partnerships was, I don't see on there when you were talking about restoring old houses or keeping old houses. What if you incentivized and had a partnership with local builders that when they go to scrape a lot, if there's actually materials that could come off of a demo building that could be salvaged, like a restore, like a habitat restore, but not necessarily obviously asbestos containing crap. If there was anything usable, I think back to the Pope's Bike Shop.
Like last window.
Just whatever it is. I mean, Kelly Toon would be
Yeah.
hugging you right now. But
Yes.
the fact is that if there is something historic that's worthwhile, and if the town actually had a policy to incentivize a builder to take a little extra step, and the town said, hey, you can go just take it over and drop it in the
Yeah.
yard or by the bike park. 'Cause
Yeah.
we've set aside a small piece of property that we could have as a storage area, not junkyard, but somewhat screened nicely. Like, I'm just trying to think, like, you don't wanna see a bunch of toilets out there, but maybe there are some things that could be salvaged, that could
Doors.
be used.
I would
Doors.
totally do that. I
There's
would
a
have
place in
some.
Chicago like that, in my sister's house.
There's a place in Santa Fe that takes up a whole city block
It's so
that
nice.
is just doors
Yeah.
and
Windows.
things, and you can't even take pictures of it because they're so nice.
There's a place in Denver, wait,
We used to have a place like that here.
Yeah, and
The
then
rummage sale.
Oh, yeah.
The rummage sale do that exact same thing, and for
There would have to be some,
be someplace where you can put it,
yeah, there would have to be some,
but they made over $300,000-400,000 in two weekends.
No, Mike's old house behind the bank, they tore down, Burke, took the logs out, and took.
Your what? The ask right now is to, I guess, make a wish list of things that you would hope to see the Regional Housing Authority help us do. And try and use different partnerships and policy ideas, or try and use different partnerships and like the increased staffing capacity that we would have access to come up with ideas for how we can address some of the data that we've seen, and then also some stuff that's come up during our conversation.
And we can just email it to you.
You can email it to me. You can do it now. It is getting super late. I'm so sorry, y'all.
super late.
This is not late at all. It's not here till 5.
11:15.
11:15, thank
It used to be here till 12 o'clock when it was back in the
Say-
original Battle Mountain.
Saying that, please do not take 2 weeks to get this to us. You have input that you would like to get us. I would love it by the end of the week, given that we are trying to turn around this presentation for the second council meeting in June. But if you need until early next week, that is
Let's go. for-
doable. But if I don't, like, I'm gonna try not to hound people. So if y'all don't have input, I'm just gonna say that it's y'all don't have input.
So.
Oh, these frogs. Well.
Thank you.
Says, right?
Update 2019 housing action plan. Let's look at AMI.
Restrictions are right.
Okay.
No, that's.
Yeah.
I didn't know where.
Told me yes.
I think are more general instead of addressing
I hope so.
one specific one, so I will take those. Thank you. Thank you for thinking about Real quick, just to wrap up, I know that we have sort of dispersed already, but overall.
well, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Jeff has had to leave at 7:25.
Yeah, I gave my recommendations to Madison.
He promised to
She
bring-
can read my writing.
Nice. I do just wanna take a quick temperature check on how everyone's feeling. And I am a former outdoor educator, and so I'm gonna use something that we used in that sphere. But we do the thumb scale. So overall, how are we feeling about what we could do if we participated in a regional housing authority? Thumbs up all the way is like, I feel great about what we could potentially do. Medium is, I'm not sure if this is applicable in getting what we want done. And thumbs all the way down is like, no way, this is not gonna work for Minturn. We got a thumbs up, we got two, can I take a picture of you guys for reference?
Hey, no, hey.
No, okay, I'm not, did you take a picture?
I did.
Okay,
But I think there's
For
some,
answers.
I think there needs to be guardrails to protect midterms like us.
yeah, we did.
That's the piece, like, I mean, I'm
That's what I
for
know.
it, but like, it's like.
That's the one thing I don't think we've talked about enough is a regional housing authority saves us a leap ton of money.
I know,
And fewer contracts and fewer staff,
Yeah,
and in that regard,
You're all fired.
that is all possible. No, not you guys, fewer, but.
I'll go work for the regional
Some
housing
say
authority.
Sources to pay somebody to be a full-time housing
Yes.
administrator, probably not.
we do not, yeah.
So,
But I do feel like there's a lot of opportunity to I don't think like what the housing authority is gonna do for Vail is maybe the same what they need to be doing for Middle.
No,
And that's the piece that I think. Like,
but we also, Minturn's gonna have a whole lot easier time. Making
Oh,
a
I know.
pitch for state federal money than Vail and Eagle and,
Yeah.
because we are small and because we are, authentic and older and, we do bring something to the table.
Yes, and one of the reasons why we did the housing needs analysis
Yeah.
as a region.
Yeah.
And had really good buy-in and participation from all the towns. And why we're doing this now is to be able to essentially put ourselves as a region in line for funding
Mhm.
as a group and individually. It doesn't mean we can't do it individually as towns, but
Because look how committed we are as demonstrated by our membership in the regional authority.
We're
correct.
leveraging our local dollars
We
to
don't
get
care.
bigger grants.
We
and
really
we're-
care.
We're organized and we're gonna use whatever state or federal money is coming our way more efficiently, and it's gonna go to the people and the houses that it needs to go to.
And the state loves that,
That's the theory.
despite the $1 billion deficit.
But yeah, and then also in terms of like protecting Minturn, I'm pretty sure we still get veto power. Like if we don't want something to happen here and we don't want to participate in something, then we can say, no, we're not opting into that.
Yeah.
And that is respected. So there's that as well. Jazz hands.
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool opportunity. Like personally, with my career so far, like I wouldn't be able to afford to buy a house in the valley, even if I worked for 100 years. So it's opportunities like this that makes it closer to feasible. Still working on that last little leg, I think, but it definitely expands opportunity for a lot of people who care about this place and want to stay here and build lives here to remain. So.
Can I say something real quick?
Mhm.
And this is a bit of a soapbox, but I've been in this discussion for a long time in this valley. You had a slide that says, why isn't more housing being built?
Mhm.
I think it's maybe not a surprise to most people, but the only projects that are getting built that are affordable are being essentially subsidized by government. Eagle County, they've built a bunch of units. They sold Lake Creek Apartments for $52 million. They've burned through that money in 4 years. And it's all gone to apartment complexes near CMC and other projects that, they've fashioned themselves as developers, right? They've delivered on that, but they're out of money, right? Those are the projects that are getting done the housing in Breckenridge that has, been met with fanfare and wound up in planning magazines, highly subsidized. You either put free land underneath a project and then partner with a housing developer who gets subsidies from the federal government, and it's complicated, or you have financial subsidies to make these things work because the margins are so small for a developer to say, well, just make the developers do it.
Can't.
They're not going to do that. And that is a hard lesson for local governments to kind of get their heads wrapped around. But I think there's some truth to that. So this is another way of kind of looking at that, spread the pain across multiple jurisdictions in the whole county through different types of taxation, but then harness and leverage the combined funding in a way that each community wants to use it.
Well,
It
this,
doesn't mean it's a perfect model, but anyways, go ahead.
well, with this, like, cause there's a bullet point here that says like redo the 2018 housing action plan. And one of the comments that like constantly comes up, like when I'm in community events or discussions, is that original plan didn't really do like almost like a master plan for housing. Like, so it was like, hey, here's our goals and stuff, but it didn't say, hey, okay, we'd like an apartment complex here, and then we'd like housing here, so that it really created that kind of that community. And this has been like, with the redo of the 2019 plan, is there discussion about doing a countywide master plan for housing?
No. That would just be for the town of Minturn.
It'd still just be town of Minturn.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that starts drifting into sub-area master planning and I mean, at the county level, there's certain planning commission members like Bobby Warner, who's been on the planning commission at Eagle County forever, or maybe he's not there anymore, but he had, or maybe it was Peter Runyon when he was a county commissioner, said we should have an overlay of all
That's
the
exactly what's been discussed.
yeah, an overlay of all the unincorporated areas of Eagle County, places like Edwards and Elgibel, where there's a housing district where we give incentives for additional height and lot coverage and all these things to get a developer to that.
But that's that overlay though, that incorporates also what's being done in each of the municipalities, so that you get a good like picture.
That gets into an area that if people are mildly interested or really interested in participating in a regional housing authority, if you start telling them that the region is going to start telling them how and where to develop.
No, not develop, just that there's a picture.
That's what I'm saying though, because what does that picture translate into? It starts telling a private property owner what the community wants to see built on his or her property. That's why it's never been done, because we don't want to paint a target on certain people's, I mean, the reverse is also true of open space, and why EVLT doesn't publish any maps of open spaces that might be great target open spaces to get conservation easements on, because it starts affecting perhaps people's property values, right? I agree with you. I think it would be great if we had a master plan that said, hey, look, here's all of our transportation routes. They're not moving. Here's all of our bus routes that have been established. They're not moving. We know where high density or low density or any kind of housing density should develop
flourish.
For a lot of different reasons, but it's kind of hard to get there, at least on a regional scale. The town of Minturn could do it.
What,
But
Amanda, what I was asking about earlier, what I wrote on Madison's, because if I wrote on Post-it, don't even be able to read it. And Madison can barely read it, but I recommended that we redo our housing plan, because I think anybody that wants to develop, any big projects in Minturn, we are totally limited on space, and some stuff is out of our control because we already approved it, but anybody that wants to do multiple family, like big projects that they can pony up. Because there's not much space left. Let them pony up some more. Let's think about, let's think about our AMI, and Madison will give it to you, Jessica, and then I also just talk more about deed restriction stuff, as well as all the good ideas that you guys have talked about. If you'll put in writing that people can read. or email. That's where I thought was a good start.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of opportunities here to, like, we were just touching on the limited space for further development, but preserving the housing stock that we already have, getting creative with that so that we don't have to necessarily expand, we can just evolve.
I think that's, conversations where Rob is involved. He has pretty strong opinions, as you've seen. And I think he has said, well, we probably, as a relative newcomer, I think his mind gravitated towards buying down the purchase price of homes and coming up with programs that help people renovate existing homes and things like that as the most impactful.
To our community.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to ask, like, how do we analyze these programs? To figure out what can get us the biggest bang for our buck.
That is a really good point that we were actually talking about earlier in terms of like doing the deep research on what's working, how we're gonna get the most bang for our buck. And also in the Facebook group Eagle County Classifieds the other day, somebody made an anonymous post saying, who here lives in a deed restricted unit and like how well does it actually work for you? Something along those lines. And I think that looking into that would actually be really good, because before we throw a bunch of money at this problem, I think it would be really, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just gonna say important to make sure that this is actually accomplishing what it sets out to accomplish. It does nothing if you have a deed restriction on a unit and year-round occupancy is still somehow going down. So doing that research as well, and if you have suggestions for stuff that I can look into in the next few months, I'd be happy to do it.
Well, and I've done some research like on rental occupancy, because it's like such a different market in the state of Colorado, Front Range versus up here, and those numbers were shocking to me. So like, I don't know why we would even put in money to like a rental assistance program, because it just, rental occupancy is like up in the mountains, we're like between 1.7 years that somebody stays to 2.3 years, like the average, depending on where you're in the municipality. Like, that's not creating community. And so like, I think that program should be out. Like, I don't even want to consider a rental assistance program. I would like anything that's gonna prolong, long-term ownership, long-term, lights on, all of that. Like, that's what, like, so I'm just speaking out loud, because like, those are the analysis like I would want to see us do, is like, okay, well, what's the actual turnover in rentals in Minturn? I was doing it for Eagle County when I was looking at this compared to state, and it was shocking. Like, I don't know why we would even have.
But is that because the teachers leave after a year because they can't? And does a rental assistance program keep them here for 5 years and then they get married and then they?
No, the average rental was between, like, depending on which municipality, it was like 1.3 to 2.7 years that they stayed in a rental. That's it.
But as rentals increase in price every
Yeah.
year, that drives people out of the rentals. They no longer can rent it, and so they have to leave. They're forced out. It's not them wanting to.
I think that's the first thing on here.
I think that's
When
still
Kayak Crossing
risky
was-
money.
When Kayak Crossing was $2,300 and now it's $4,000.
No,
People leaving, yeah.
No, I get it, but I still think it's a risky mark. Like, I just don't think rental assistant program, if we're like trying to like do the best for Minturn, I think that's a risky program. We have less control over rental market.
Maybe,
Do
but
you-
that means we have fewer teachers. That means we have fewer firefighters. It depends on who your audience is.
I think that it's something as we move forward that it is a potential part of the toolbox. But as it sounds like we've got some time before Regional Housing Authority gets formed, before any money gets generated. We have time to figure out, maybe as part of the 2019 Housing Action Plan update, to really look at what percentage we have and their longevity.
Exactly.
Because it is important. Anyone moving to a new community needs rental.
Yeah.
If they're planned to be here on a short-term basis, there's a place for that in the market, but what portion and how many dollars do we want to?
Yeah, like prioritizing those programs, and that's what I'm saying, like, which programs gives us the biggest bang for our buck. And to me, like, I'm just looking at it, the rental assistance probably is not going to be a buy down. Like, that to me seems more driving what our community has.
Buy down, the rental assistance county has what Amanda's saying, buy down, like looking for. you know, it goes toss to be either way. I understand Melissa's point, but for teachers and this and that, well, it'd be one thing if we had rental assistance for, you know, school district employees or this and that, but I think that on a steep turnover, if we don't have a ton of money and we put a bunch towards rental assistance and people decide they want to just come hang out for a year or two and apply for our rental assistance program, isn't really achieving what we want to achieve.
But you're gonna say no. I'm a ski bum, I want rental assistance, you're not gonna get approved.
Yeah, but they're not gonna tell you.
But we're instructed here, as a part of the deed restriction, they have to disclose where they work.
No, deed restriction.
He's talking about rental assistance.
Yeah, we're talking about just rent, she's talking about rental assistance.
I'm just saying, like,
You have to disclose any of this as part of the application.
and I think for midterms, for this program, the RHA, we need to prioritize those programs. If we only can participate. If we have to prioritize that participation and the dollar amounts we put in that participation, then I would say we really need to know our bang for the buck.
So, I think one way that we can explore that's already been talked about. By I think Rob, in looking at some scenarios of how would we use that $300,000, $400,000 per year that we theoretically generate. It would mostly go towards buying down. Or the town purchasing units and then being able to provide employee housing, and maybe there's, you know, leftovers that could go to other things. Maybe part of the money is also spent on the administrative costs that we pay back into the RHA. So anyone in this town can take advantage of the countywide rental assistance program, right? So it's not commingling funds necessarily. That program exists already, it's functioning, and maybe we just get a leg up or a more people in this town that provide a portion of the workforce and maybe are only here for a couple of years. Some of those people will end up staying.
Yeah.
Right? How many of us bought or rented a place and then ended up buying a condo and then bang like that? So, but do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
I have a hard time comprehending this, because you're giving us the figure of 300,000 for use for buy downs.
fictitious,
All hypothetical.
$500,000
So
per year.
I was gonna say, how much would a person have to get in the buy down to be able to afford a house in Minturn?
So we would put 300,000 into the RHA. That opens up
We
our,
would get 300,000 back if we through an
No.
annual taxation have whatever 300 and what's 10%, $330,000. 10% of that goes back to the RHA, and we keep 300,000 to spend as we would like.
the Minturn spends.
That makes sense. And then we can stretch that further if instead of doing our own midterm deed restriction program, we participated with something like Good Deeds or Vail Indeed. And we put 100,000 of our 3,000 into that program. And then we have access to that whole pot. We have 200,000 to do a midterm specific home rehabilitation program. And that could come in the form of a grant or a revolving loan, and we could build up our pot over time. Stuff like that.
But can we just get annexed by
What?
Can we get
What?
one?
Wait, come that way.
You can go.
I think that the deed restriction stuff and, you know, and deed restriction AMI and development. Stuff that we can currently control prior to getting into this regional thing, something that we can actually look at as our government moving forward sooner than later. Before our new water plant comes online, it's probably best.
I'd like-
buck.
It's good.
Use some of that money to help senior citizens.
Oh my God, what about people just trying to pay their bills every?
A true community has all generations, and I think that is disappearing.
Oh, no, but it's hard for everybody, man. Everybody in this room is
But-
in a different age.
Once again, we're talking about all this, but that isn't coming up in the conversation.
Oh, I think it is. I hear you.
Good, thank you.
I hear you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Yes, not It's definitely.
Well, and being a community where people can age in place. Right. Is a big deal.
It's fine, someone's just buying the kids out of
No
here.
share.
Aren't we all?
My escrow keeps going up every year on my mortgage payment. Aging in place is getting harder and harder.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Did you get what you needed? Or do you still need to?
Yes.
Does anyone have anything that they've written down so far that they're here to give me?
Just me.
Yeah, okay. Tom from Daryl, thank you.
Where's?
Thank you for translating that. You're welcome.
And then here's mine.
Awesome. I'll come grab it.
It's not that thoughtful. Mike's way more thoughtful.
I think it mainly, just the point of this was to get us to talk about it and think about the possibilities, and we have done that very well. Sorry, at the end it wasn't as organized, but we tried it, and I think that the outcome delivered what we did anyways, so.
I think you did a great job.
Yeah, we
I
did
think
good.
you guys did a great job. I appreciate everyone's honest participation and yeah, just sharing your ideas, so.
If
More to
there's any further input, that I'll just set a deadline now. If there's any further input that you would like to give, have it to me by June.
And if you wanna just chat about it, as I said, I'm here Tuesday through Thursday and happy to go for a walk. I usually have my dog with me and we can chat. Lynn knows very well what that's like.
Have their parents. I know the dog, so it's just. Cool.
Nice job.
Okay, nice job. Thank you very much. And I would like to read that board before you take it.
Okay, there is one post-it note in each quadrant.
That's all right. Jeff said.
We just wanna pick on him, really.
Okay.
Next, design review and land use public hearing, Scott. There's nothing tonight. Do we know when it's coming back for us again?
Minturn forward.
Yeah.
Matt is working hard on the Article 1 general provisions. I am now through to the Gs in our definitions article. And I'm trying to spend as much time as possible every day on that. So hopefully we'll be able to bring Article 1 to you next, and then the definitions will be last.
Staff reports. Anybody up there have anything? Nothing?
Nope.
Manager report?
But that's where I'm going next. Anybody have anything on manager report?
No.
Just so it says, local building and zoning review is nearly complete. Local design review will occur at the June 10th planning commission meeting. Will everybody be here June 10th? Article 1.
What does that mean?
So the right.
Projects, page 36, new water treatment.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah. So I hope everybody can be here because that will be before us.
Water treatment plant building. I'm just gonna let y'all know y'all can't deny it. It's already designed.
It's already burned.
It's already approved. It is time before you to check a
Not
box.
be too exciting of a design, though, right? It's a water treatment building.
It's a big square building.
please don't prejudge the file. It'll come before you in due time, and then you can take action on it.
I saw that in here and I wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
This procedure.
Because that will be something later on in life you want to say, well, I missed that meeting. I didn't know it was him. Or something like that.
Hopefully nobody.
Anybody that doesn't know, there's a water plan is happening at this point.
Just said what's coming up at our next meeting and it wasn't mentioned. So. Sometimes it's in there and we miss it because we don't all read every single line.
It would be on your agenda.
The next meeting, yes, but by then, never mind. June 10th is the important thing. Anybody else have any planning commission comments? June 24th.
Over, you're
No,
doing
going back
open
to
comments?
town manager?
No, I'm going back to planning commission comments. So I think we asked this before and maybe bringing it back up to Rob, but we have a lot of construction projects coming up this in town. They're already starting to do road closures and start putting out the orange and just trying to. I mean, are we having any sort of evacuation plan? Do we have any plan to like make the projects a little bit more streamlined so people aren't stopping multiple times on Highway 24? Like, is there anything we're doing to manage these?
They're not town projects. They're Excel projects or Sitewise or whoever else needs access on Highway 24. So we can't control the location of the projects, not ours.
But can we control the timing of them?
Yeah,
I was shocked this
that would
morning,
require a code change.
seeing the traffic.
So is that in our code change?
No, it's not covered by chapter 60.
You had a good point, though. If there's an emergency,
Evacuation plan, I mean, it
Did
is.
you see the pile of traffic that's, I never in town, the bus is going that way, and the Laville traffic, it was backed up from. You
It's
know,
like back up to the S.
like, it's like, Matt, like you said, if there's an emergency, you can't even get past. the
one
Laville
thing we could do is maybe check with the sheriff's department on what they might be able to do if they're, because we only have one sheriff. The fire department, I guess, helps us.
Yeah, it would, in case of
Guys,
evacuation.
just package stuff up.
Evacuation,
Snorkel it down the river.
even with the construction going on.
Gonna bump
they
along
change it.
this time of year. I know.
So they're aware of what construction's going on and how.
Okay.
So that would be our best.
Amanda, I know you brought it up a couple times and it's a very pertinent question and concern. Since Rob will be here at the June 10th. Do you want to help? Just have us give him a heads up that we need to have that discussion as well?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people that probably want, and maybe this is more appropriate for council,
Possibly.
probably. So you can either pass it along to him and maybe just indicate what, you know, from a manager's perspective,
Mhm.
what that looks like from an evacuation plan.
Okay.
It's coming summer.
Put it in the report.
Very good report.
Okay.
He's got their report.
Planning Commission personal comments, nothing, nobody? Okay. And future meetings as June 10th and June 24th. June 10th is the water treatment plant. Do we have anything else of note? We don't know when Matt's coming back. Are you gonna try that for the 10th?
Hopefully,
Okay,
we'll see.
and June 24th. Anybody? Everybody here?
Mhm.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting of May 27th, 2026.
I'll second it.
Motion by Amanda, second by Daryl, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.